Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome and happy to see everybody live joining us today. Christophe and Tom asked me to tell you a little bit about what are the most common challenges you come across when doing Teams projects with our customers, and I tried to limit it to 5 and explain you a little bit on how to address those challenges, or you might get and might see, and when implementing Microsoft Teams as a system. First challenge we hear a lot is we think Teams is just too complicated for me. It's an issue that a lot of your end users or people that will be using the tool might address and say, okay, no, forget it. It's just too complicated. I need something simple. The way we typically address those kind of concerns is from different angles. A first one could be guidance. It's really simple if you read it out or if you think about it, but it's really important to explain to your end users what's the difference between Teams and SharePoint, what's the difference between OneDrive and SharePoint and Teams, and when do I use Yammer, and when do I put something on the intranet, and where do I store this. And so explain from your governance that you decided on, explain to your end users what Teams will be used for, and don't limit it to high level descriptions like we'll use it for collaboration or we'll use it for communication, but really talk into business cases that they know, and talk about, okay, we will use this to collaborate with external people. We'll use this in your day-to-day life for telephony, or we'll use it for online video or online meetings. So really explain what to use when, okay? It sounds logical, but it's like the key for everything. The second one is you'll probably be putting up governance and governance rules, like, okay, who can create what type of classification, what type of naming conventions should be complied to, how long will we save or store our teams if they're not used anymore. Key in there is try to automate as much of those things as possible, because when you're automating it, it will keep it simple to use, and it will help people not having to know all of those rules by heart, but allowing the automation and the IT behind it to guide them into the way the use was meant to be. Okay, and as a third one, yeah, super logical as well, but keep it simple. Okay, talk about the things they will really need, and don't explain the entire package from day one. So if you think that Microsoft Planner combined with Microsoft Teams will not be used from day one, maybe it shouldn't talk to everybody about it, but start with the basics, explain the basics, allow them to getting to know that and know those basics, and then take it one step at a time and take it one step further, step by step. It's really logical steps and really easy to implement, but I think it can help you address those issues. Okay. Second one, I don't have time to be trained, or I'm way too busy to go into a training. Training is a good idea. Training can be very useful for specific types of users who like to be trained in a classroom. It's really a good fit, but maybe you should try to look at other alternatives as well, and think about some kind of hybrid learning strategy, introducing new ways of learning as well. Make learning efficient as a first step. Some people prefer to take in smaller pieces of information at the time than when they need it. Think about a platform as Oase, one of our products, where we introduce small videos to help people on their way with the things they need at that time. Small videos, small learning. We call it micro learning. Okay. Second one, make learning fun again. We have developed a new escape game, which we call the Teams escape game. It's a product by Exardos as well. I'll show you a little teaser, and my colleague Niels in the end will tell you much more about it.
Matthias, yes, maybe you have to replay the video and turn on the sound from your computer into the content sharing.
Like here, right?
Right there, yes.
It's not. We tried this before. It worked in the. we did a test. And
in every good presentation and every live presentation,
yeah,
there's
everything
something
should go
wrong. So
you know what? We'll keep the honors to Niels to show you the video in his presentation when it makes much more sense to show. But
okay.
Already a small teaser. But hold on for the live video in Niels's presentation or Niels's
Perfect. You can share your screen again, Matthias. Thank you.
Yes, let's go. Hold on. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, and we're back. No, we're not back. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Yeah, that should do the trick. Yeah, there we are.
That's perfect.
I wonder why it isn't working. Okay, never mind. A third step. So we talked about being to be trained. So we talked about making it more efficient by cutting it up in small pieces. We talked about making it fun by introducing new types of learning, like an escape game, for example. And a third trend or a third way of learning we see a lot in is making learning personal by introducing things like a digital coach that can help you get the most of your investment by focusing on individual training and focusing on giving information hands-on on site next to people, introducing and helping them with new tooling step by step. So it's another way of learning, and that's what I want to introduce. If you want to limit or you want to make learning as efficient as possible, don't just look at classical ways of learning, but be creative and look at alternatives to be trained. So that can be a good one to address that concern. A third one, by the way, if you have any questions in between, just give me a yell and we can go into detail there. A concern we hear a lot from security angle is, okay, by introducing Microsoft Teams, we're really leaving the back door open. We're opening the door to threats we didn't know before because everything is on the street, everything is in the cloud. Kind of makes sense. So the way to address those concerns is by identifying the ways on the fundamentals to address for closing that door. Again, the first one I would like to point out is managing personal devices. People will be using a wide variety of mobile devices probably in the future, especially considering now where working becomes more mobile every day. So they'll be using all kinds of devices to access your Microsoft Teams environment, both managed and unmanaged devices. But it's important to know where the data is and protect the devices that are being used to address the environment. So make sure that you know what devices are accessing the environment and make sure you manage that. So you manage those personal devices in one way or another. Encrypting sensitive data is another way of protecting your sensitive information. Sensitive documents, the way to protect them is not by securing the location where they are in. So let's say we protect Microsoft Teams, but as soon as you take it out, you remove the protection, let's say. The way to encrypt to protect your sensitive data is by encrypting the data itself. So by adding a security layer on the documents itself. The way to do it is by classifying them. So telling the system, these are sensitive documents, allowing the system or like Microsoft Azure Information Protection, for example, allowing those kinds of technologies to encrypt the data and protect them wherever they are, even if it's in Teams or in any other location as well. A third one is know your guests. Opening your Microsoft Teams environment for access to guests, so guests being people that are not part of your own organization, is know who they are and try to regulate a little bit or to see what's happening. A first tip I would like to give is try to limit the use of anonymous access. Anonymous access means that you send out links to direct documents without the need to log in into the system or to log in to your Microsoft Teams environment. I would limit it. I would limit the use of that because it could be a threat for leakage. Okay, it can be a good idea in some use cases. I have to admit, but in most cases, it's a good idea to limit the use of anonymous access. A second one could be using white and black lists, telling your Office 365 environment which domains are a good idea and which domains you don't want in your environment. Think about competitors that could be blacklisted, or think about partners that are regulated that you work with a lot that are whitelisted. On the other hand, it helps to regulate on a high level. And the third one is there are a lot of toolings available, both from Microsoft and others, to review your guest access from time to time. So it's a good idea to have guests in your environment, as people will be using them extensively probably, but put some kind of review mechanism in place to make sure that that guest access is reviewed from time to time and is where people have the opportunity to take a look and to reevaluate that guest access to their environment. Okay, so those are really the basic security concerns we hear a lot around the use of SharePoint or Microsoft Teams or related technologies. Yeah. Another one, number 4, I think, we don't know what's happening. Microsoft Teams, as key to the use of Microsoft Teams, the whole platform is intended to be self-service. So it's intended to allow people to create their own teams, to invite their members of their choice, to create as much as possible, to invite others to do the configuration as they wish, which is all a good idea from an end user perspective, and it gives a lot of flexibility, which is good, as it keeps people away from shadow IT as an alternative. But on the IT side of things, it's always a good idea to know what is happening. And I do agree that if you go for a self-service environment, you probably won't know in detail what is happening. But that doesn't mean you don't have to invest a little bit in some kind of reporting or detections on irregularities. So 2 things to invest there, or to investigate at least, is know your environment, which means try to invest in monitoring the usage, cross-link that information maybe with other data sources, and that can give you information like this. This is just an example of a specific environment where we have created a Power BI dashboard on top of the usage data of Microsoft Teams, telling us, or telling the IT organization at least, how the usage is evolving of Microsoft Teams. What types of access points are people using? Are they using their mobile phones like Android or web? Are they more using other technologies to address? What are they doing? So we see they are installing bots, they are adding a channel, they are adding members. So all that information is available in your out of the box usage data of Microsoft Teams and Office 365 as a whole. So the creation of these dashboards isn't that complex at all. So the data is there. It's just a way of creating those kinds of reports. If you do need any help with that, please don't hesitate to contact us. We'll in a little effort, we can help you to create similar dashboards to give you the information that you really want to see. So it gives you an overview what is happening, and I think that's rather important to keep your environment healthy. Another one is react on irregularities. It's a hard word, but what could an irregularity be? For example, orphan teams that don't have any owner anymore. You could look at teams that are not used anymore, or that are not active anymore, or that are lacking some kind of activity in any way, that have unauthorized external sharing. Tools like Sharegate Apricot is which is one of our partners. We can help you with that if you need any assistance there. But Sharegate Apricot is that kind of governance tool that gives you an overview of all the teams that are there, Teams or Office 365 groups, which is kind of related. But it gives you an overview of all the teams that are there, and it allows you to quickly see what's happening and to even to address specific irregularities that are happening by addressing the owners to take an action on that. Yeah. So make sure you know what's happening. Okay, that's my finishing point. And as a final one, and which is not unimportant as such, so don't underestimate this one. It doesn't fit in our workplace. I tell this all the time to our customers, and I'll repeat it once again today. A workplace consists of different functional building blocks, which are both technology driven, hardware driven, facilitary driven. So a workplace is not just one thing. It's a relation between different technologies that are related, in fact, and that can't live without each other. So if it doesn't fit in your case, make sure it. So look at where the bad fitting is happening and see how you can change that. First one we hear a lot is that, okay, everybody, we have an open office space, everybody will start using Microsoft Teams as an audio or a video platform. So we need headsets because everybody will be talking to their own laptops, and you get chaos. You get utter chaos in your open work plan. So you need good headsets to be able to allow people to understand each other and to have good quality meetings. Okay, so invest in both personal headset, but also invest in good meeting room equipment. If you don't have adequate meeting room equipment, the 5 people that are at home trying to follow your meeting happening in a physical workplace, yeah, well, they will have a really hard time in participating during your meeting. So invest in personal equipment and in meeting room equipment, which are like the touch points of your online meeting world in Microsoft Teams. Yeah. And on the other hand, as I said, if you're going for an open office plan where everybody will start calling, you'll probably need to think about updating or changing your facilities or your office spaces. Maybe you should think about going for activity-based office zones where you have focus areas and areas that are more focused on collaboration, areas in your workplace that are more around having discussions. So think about the different activities that your people do. Contact a partner to help you think around the way you create your office spaces, and think about different types of meeting rooms, different types of office zones, and make sure that Microsoft Teams fits in somewhere, and that it becomes clear for your end users where online meetings happen and where discussion happens and where focus areas are. Okay, so people need different types of office spaces. Okay, I hope. Let me quickly recap for you guys in 5 steps. So first step is people complaining about Microsoft Teams being too complicated. Well, make sure that you explain why Microsoft Teams is there, what's in there for them. So explain how to fit it in in their daily life and in their daily work, so that they explain how to use it. And regarding governance rules, automate them as much as possible. Yeah, I'm too busy to being trained or to learn something new. Well, maybe it's time to look at learning alternatives to add on to your classical classroom trainings, but maybe it's time to look at different ways of learning to make it fun, to make it easier to digest by cutting it in small pieces, or making it personal by using digital coaches. We're leaving the back door open. Yeah, make sure you have specific security measures in place on managing devices, securing your data, and closing those security gaps in that way. Okay, we don't know what's happening. Yeah, make sure you do know what's happening. So it's really a good idea to invest in monitoring your Microsoft Teams environment to get those insights that you need to keep the environment healthy. And if it doesn't fit in your environment or in your workspace, maybe it's a good idea to to take a closer look at the physical workplace, at the physical offices. How are they organized? And maybe it's a good idea to switch it around and make sure everybody has the correct tooling or the correct headset, sorry, and communication devices to use that new way of communication and that modern way of doing online meetings. So make sure they have the tools they need, and make sure that your meeting rooms are equipped as well and are ready for the new way of collaborating, where people are both at home and in the office, and that your workplace fits those kinds of needs.